President Buhari cautions against lack of synergy in the execution of policies.
We cannot afford to lose focus regardless of the challenges. Our eyes must therefore remain fixed on the ultimate goal.
Federal government begins implementation of 2.3 trillion naira COVID-19 economic stimulus package.
Fiscal measures, as we've seen, are to safeguard revenues, to reduce non-essential spending. There were, of course, many monetary policy measures.
Nigeria's COVID-19 positive cases increase as NCDC confirms 296 new cases.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the Edo 2020 governorship election campaigns.
Less than 2 weeks to the Edo 2020 gubernatorial election, the campaigns have entered home stretch. The 14 candidates are intensifying efforts as the trail moves from ward to ward with campaign promises in the 18 local government areas of the state.
That's right, Kyria. Governor Godwin Obaseki of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and Pastor Osagie Ezeyamu of the All Progressives Congress, APC, are the two most prominent contenders for the Edo governorship position. Now, both candidates have swapped the platforms on which they contested in the 2016 election, which was won by Obaseki.
Well, you know, Kingsley, there's only one female governorship candidate in the race. That is Tracy Ebun Agor of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP. Now, the only woman running against 13 other men in such a charged political atmosphere.
That's right, Kyria, and of course it is regrettable that the election campaign has also been characterized by smear campaigns between the two main candidates, their supporters, that is to say, who have taken swipes at each other at every opportunity since the campaigns were flagged off. Now, the actions of both parties have also erupted in violence in a number of instances.
Yeah, I recall sometime last week, the Oba of Benin sat the key players down, and spoke to them like his children, reminding them of the level of their friendship ever before the campaign started, and wondered, why they cannot keep to that and get this election done, based on the rules of the game. I want to believe that they have taken serious measures to actually put to effect what the Oba has said. Of course, Oba is well revered in Benin. Thankfully, both candidates have promised to put a stop to their war of words and violence between their supporters. This followed the intervention of the Oba of Benin, as I just mentioned, Omonobanedo Ukuwapolopolo, Oba Eware II, who stepped in to calm the political atmosphere ahead of the election.
Well, on the 14th of July, the APC candidate, Pastor Osagie Ezeyamu, officially unveiled his 50-page manifesto titled The Simple Agenda. Simple, of course, is the acronym for the number of issues that he intends to deal with if elected, which he says, of course, is a covenant between him and the people of the state, if, of course, he gets to be elected, and they can use that manifesto to assess his performance.
All right, and the Edo State Governor and the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, on his part, has designed socio-economic policies which he said are contained in his Making Edo Great Again mega manifesto meant to address the challenges arising from the coronavirus pandemic.
Well, how well have these manifestos been articulated with the voters, and how do they resonate with key stakeholders throughout the state? More importantly, what assurance do Edo people have that their votes will, at the end of the day, count? And this is against the background of the fear of intimidation and violence during polling. These are hints of pertinent questions that will be raised in the course of our conversation segment today, of course, being Wednesday. I'm Kingsley Osadolo, and I welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios.
Right, and I'm Kurian Umayo. Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of the program. And following tradition on Good Morning Nigeria, we shall bring to you some of the complementary segments as much as time will allow us, and of course, including the newspaper review segments, business, and what have you. For now, let's join Abdul Malik Adiu, who is seated with the morning news highlights. Hello, Abdul Malik.
Good morning, Kieran, and good morning, Kingsley. It's good to have you join us on the morning news. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari says, despite enormous challenges bedeviling the country, his administration will neither stray to its responsibility nor lose focus in its commitment of taking Nigeria to the next level of development. Consequently, he warned that insufficient collaboration, coordination and synergy amongst MDAs in the implementation of policies and programs will not be tolerated. The president was speaking at the closing ceremony of the first-year Ministerial Performance Review Retreat, which lasted 2 days.
Trumpets, I have to charge all of you to defend the government vigorously and not allow irresponsible and politically motivated extremists to keep spreading patent falsehoods about this government.
Now, the focus of economic sustainability plan programs, as often explained by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, is to prevent the nation's economy falling deep into recession during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. The Vice President, in his presentation at the Ministerial Performance Review Retreat, says, though the federal government has commenced the implementation of 2.3 trillion stimulus package, the economic distortions and hardship caused by the COVID-19 pandemic require the relevant ministers and stakeholders to expedite action on the plan adopted to mitigate the effect of the crisis on the economy.
First, the fiscal measures, as you've seen, are to safeguard revenues, to reduce non-essential spending. There were, of course, many monetary policy measures.
Now, a report from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says 296 new cases of COVID-19 has been reported, increasing the number of confirmed cases to 55,456 in the country. These 296 new cases, which were confirmed in 14 states of the Federation, and the FCT now brings the total number of active cases to 11,055 cases. Of the 296 new cases, Plateau State has 183, Lagos comes in second with 33, and the Federal Capital Territory comes in third with 25. Now, Ogun has 16, Oyo 7, Ekiti 6, Kwara and Ondo State have 5 new cases each, while Anambra, Imo and Nasarawa State recorded 3 new cases. Others are Rivers, Gombe and Edo with 2 new cases each, plus Akwa Ibom with just 1 new case. On the NCDC number of confirmed cases, on state chart, Lagos tops it with 18,422 cases, followed by FCT with 5,335 confirmed cases, while Oyo comes in third with 3,201 confirmed cases. Now, of the 55,456 total confirmed cases in Nigeria, 43,334 patients have been discharged following the recovery, with 1,067 deaths recorded. Now, the devastation of farmlands by flooding across communities is a setback the federal government policies of improving rice cultivation for local consumption. Against this backdrop, the federal lawmaker from Kebbi State have offered suggestions that could mitigate the impact of the disaster as farmers count losses running into billions of naira.
Preparation for dry season farming and the reconstructions of major infrastructure affected in the state.
From the valley of Argungu down to close to Benin Republic, all that area is submerged by flooding. This is quite different.
Now, the All Progressives Congress Governors Forum has commended the federal government for successfully getting the UK Commercial Court to order stay of execution, which also suspends any penalty against Nigeria in respect of the $9.6 billion process and industrial development debt judgment against Nigeria. Chairman of the APC Governors Forum and Governor of Kebbi State, Atiku Bagudu, in a statement says this is among critical issues discussed during a teleconference. The APC governors commend Nigeria's legal team led by the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami SAN, and President Muhammadu Buhari for efficiently managing Nigeria's economy, which has led to giant strides in the execution of major national projects that includes the revival of railways, the second Niger Bridge, Ajakuta Steel Road project across all parts of the country. And that concludes the morning news. Good morning, Nigeria on Edo 2020 governorship election campaign continues with Kingsley and Kirian after this break.
Like every mother, I'm worried about dangerous insects, especially mosquitoes, which spread diseases like malaria to my loved ones. This year, I'm not afraid. I'm using New Mortein Insta-Kill. New Mortein Insta-Kill's improved formulation knocks down mosquitoes 2 times faster. Not even a single mosquito is spared, because even one mosquito bite can cause malaria. Mortein Insta knocks down mosquitoes 2 times faster.
She cries. She cries in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry means nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she's left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their cruelty. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
In these uncertain times, one thing's certain. We're in this together. So Clean Protect, the antibacterial detergent that removes 99.9% germs while it cleans. Because germ-free clean is the real clean that we all need. Do your best to protect your family. So Clean Protect.
Son, being good at something requires strength. It requires putting in more. That's why the new improved BOURNVITA is packed with vitality and a richer, creamier taste.
Good morning, Nigeria, on NTA's network service. Now it's time for business news, so let's join our correspondent, Ronami Agirani.
Plans are underway to diversify proceeds from Ghana's gold royalty IPO later this year. The finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, confirmed in an interview that they intend to use 20% of the $500 million being sought to buy stakes in other royalty companies, thus leveraging their current position as the continent's largest gold producer. Analysts believe that the current high price of gold will boost Ghana's gold stock to multi-year highs, and the rest of the proceeds will be used to develop Ghana's gold value chain, as the country will be keeping a 51% stake in the fund, which will be listed on the London and local stock markets. And on the stock markets yesterday, the nation's bourse continued its decline, with market capitalization closing at 13.3 trillion naira and all-share index closing at 25,497.32 points against Monday's 25,582 points. Tuesday's decline was as a result of losses recorded by stocks like Guarantee Trust Bank, Guinness, and Zenith Bank. With business news, I'm Ronami Egirani.
Thank you, Ronami, for the business package. Newspaper review is next on Good Morning Nigeria.
We have three papers to review this morning. We have the Punch, we have the Sun, and then the Nation as well. So let's begin with the Nation newspaper. From top to bottom, that's to say above the name flag. How Benue gang leader Ghana was killed, and that's according to the military. Details can be found on page 5. I'm ready for Zamfara APC reconciliation, says Yari, that's the former governor of the state. Law school bars parents from call to bar. And Sokapu, that's the Southern Kaduna People's Union, Sean's Peace Summit on Kaduna killings. Below that, Edo 2020, you have a number of headlines there. Alleged invasion, court awards 2.52 million naira damages against police. Center hails Oba Benin's peace initiative, and Edo elite hails of Obasaki's performance. INEC committed to credible poll, and Izayamu best option. Details can be found on page 3. Ministers move to end doctors' strike, and parley in Abuja today, patients leave hospitals. And Bagudu visits victims of flooding in Jega. You can see the Kebbi State governor there with district head and many residents during the governor's visit to Argungu metropolis to commiserate with hundreds of victims whose houses were destroyed by the recent flood disasters in the state. Buhari orders quick release of 2.3 trillion naira stimulus funds. Buhari orders quick release of 2.3 trillion naira stimulus funds. Millions of jobs coming, says Oshibajo, that's vice president. And you can see the president and the vice president there having the elbow bump at the closing session of the ministerial performance retreat at the presidential villa. It says agriculture requiring so much money will provide 5 million jobs, solar power project funding. It's also expected to provide 250,000 jobs, mass housing, also to create some 1.5 million jobs. ECOWAS gives Mali junta September 15th deadline to appoint civilian head of transition. That's on page 5. Kirian.
Well, right now to the Daily Sun newspaper. On the right-hand side of the nameplate, we have Ohaneze Igbo elder suit rise against water resources bill. With the two riders, Southeast looking up to Pan-Igbo Organization for 2023 presidency push group. Governors betrayed people on regional security. All right, wanted militia leader Ghana killed. protests against electricity tariff, fuel hike, Rock Ocean, Ogun, Ondo, and Oyo. Police filed demonstration in Lagos. No agitation will be allowed in Borno, says the security. Now, below the photo story on the right-hand side of the newspaper, alleged money laundering, EFCC rearranges Malibu Oil Company, 7 others on fresh charges. What I told Trump about Christian massacre allegation, Buhari, page 27. Terrorism, Customs disowns memo on plot to attack FCT and others. That's on pages 26 and 27. On plans, UN plans the radicalization program for repentant Boko Haram. Okay, UN plans the radicalization program for repentant Boko Haram members. That's 26 and 27. Edo, Ondo, Goba, INEC to decide on card reader controversial matters tomorrow. That's on page 19. But that's all about it. The issue here is a protest against electricity tariff. I don't know how much impact that has been able to make across the nation, or whether it's just pockets of protest, here and there. But they've not been able to form a big time protest. That can, shake the nation. Usually, what we get these days is a few number of people gather coming together to protest. When protest is protest, right? Huge number of people. It shows some sense of seriousness.
Well, Kieran, as I thought the point you were making, there's no groundswell of protest against the increase in the pump price of petrol, which is not to discount the rationale for the protest in the first instance. But what is critical is what the federal government has also indicated, that the country is now in a season of full deregulation of the downstream sector. So I don't know what any protest would yield at this time to say, look, reverse the price. The government says, look, I'm not fixing the price. PPROA says, look, we're no longer fixing the price. But when you say that there is deregulation, that is where the core issue is. The fact that there is deregulation does not mean the absence of regulation. It means that, fine, you cannot fix your prices, but there are still rules for a number of government agencies, including the DPR. What guarantee is there that when you go to the filling station and you want to buy a liter of petrol, that what you are actually served is 1 liter?
Exactly.
Yeah. What guarantee is there that the pump head itself has not been rigged?
Exactly.
Yeah. So these are the issues.
As a matter of fact, I've been privileged, a long time ago, to cover DPR.
Yes.
When we went on, we're going to filling stations, to ascertain, their metering.
That's right.
So, well, they have these, their own 10-liter, jerry can, it's a bit of metal, and they're kind of reading. You can read. So they say, okay, fine, put 10 liters here. They put 10 liters, you read it, and you discover that what is there is 7 liters.
Precisely.
Right, so, and it happens, there were 10 stations that we went to at that time, right? Well, some was even, were even a 6 liters, as against 10, that was read on their meter. So, it's right. Let me tell you this. In some stations in Abuja here, there are stations that people want to go to buy fuel.
That is true.
Because there's some level of sincerity in them. if you go, if you buy, you are sure. And you see people queuing up there, right? While other places are empty, so...
I think that's one of that. That's a very significant example that you have raised, Kirian. So, as we said, the fact that there is deregulation does not mean that fuel and stations can behave and act anyhow they like, fix their prices arbitrarily. Of course, if you fix your price arbitrarily, nobody's going to come to you. But if your price is what you have fixed, let it be sure that there's real value for the money that the customers are paying. It is not just the DPR only. There's also a department or a unit in MITI, that's the Ministry of Industries, Trade and Investment, that goes about units and measures. That says, look, if it is 1 liter of measure that you're talking about, indeed it is 1 liter of measure. The other significant point that we have often raised in recent times, Kirian, has to do with the fact that, look, all of this now is being dependent on importation of fuel products. So it means that for every liter of fuel that you are buying, you are providing jobs for foreigners.
Exactly.
You know, you are just every liter of fuel you go to buy at our filling station, you are providing jobs to foreigners who are working in refineries abroad, or those who are shipping, who are captains of the ship, or who are the workers on ships, bringing in
the value chain.
It's a long chain.
The entire value chain, you know, of oil supply in this country. We are feeding them.
So, where are our refineries?
That is why we have been asking that question on this program. Where are our refineries? They can still function effectively and efficiently.
That's right.
We have refineries across the globe. They're over 60 years, 70 years. In Texas, we have that. It's over 70 years. It's still
and they're still working.
They're still working. You know, what you need to do is to beef it up. You know, touch it up. You know, bring in some new technology and marry it to the old technology. And what you need to do is what you need to have is functionality. If it's functioning, again, what is it? It doesn't matter how old it is.
That's right.
But I wonder why, even those days, you know, the 80s and early 90s, you know, we keep hearing that like this maintenance, maintenance culture.
Yeah,
turnaround maintenance, you know. Oh, I grew up knowing that about it. You know, there's always, they say they shut down the refineries that are doing turnaround maintenance. But the point is that after the turnaround maintenance, nothing changes, okay? Until today, now, we're still having the issue of getting even one of those refineries working at optimum level. Just one.
Kirian, the aspect of it to note is that by the published audited accounts of the NNPC, the refineries that are not producing are actually gulping billions of naira. So the refineries are sitting there, their staff are sitting there, they are earning money, the refineries are not working, but just to keep the refineries at a state that, of course, when the time comes to maintain, the refineries can, of course, would then be maintained. But the refineries are money guzzlers at this time when they are not providing any services.
Exactly, and there are other sections of the refinery. They're not even meant for fuel. You know, other products, byproducts, you know, of fuel. That are still there, but I wouldn't know the level of their, you know, level of performance in terms of what they turn out.
Probably less than 20% from what has been reported.
Exactly. So I wonder on the fuel aspect, we have almost failed woefully in that respect. Something has to happen. You know, because the issue of importing fuel. It started in the early 90s, right? It started in the early 90s under IBB administration, isn't it? Yeah, it's there with us up to today.
So it's not tolerable. Well, Kirian, the other stories are fairly straightforward. There's a story that is not on the front page, just before we take the editorial. I read it last night online. There is a fish that has died in Zambia, Kirian. The fish died in Zambia. It used to be in a pond, the Copperbelt University in Zambia, and the country virtually is in mourning. The fish was 22 years old. The students have mourned the fish because they say it was always a source of good luck. Before they wrote their exams, they would go around the pond, you know, seeing the fish and, of course, communing with the fish, as it were.
Okay, the fish
the Zambian president...
22 years.
22 years old, about 22 years old. And the Zambian president has also offered his condolences.
To the fish. Well, I'm sorry. They're going to give a befitting burial.
Well, they say they're going to embalm the fish.
Okay,
embalm the fish, yes.
Embalmment is just the way
right
out.
thing. So they'll probably have it in a museum somewhere.
No, that's
the name was the nickname for it was Mafishi. That's what they called it. 22 years old. And by the way, crocodiles, in some instances, can live up to 100 years.
Oh yes, of course.
Crocodiles, but in this case was a fish.
This was is actually exceptional. You know, 22 years. You know, fish don't live more than 25, 30, as case maybe, depending on species.
Depending on the species, yes. And the fish was lucky that it wasn't harvested and then used for pepper soup or some other thing there before.
Yes, Africa's unenviable record of sit-tight leaders. You know, of course, that one is well, it's not really peculiar to Africa anyway, because there are leaders in Southeast Asia, even in Europe, you know, who have been there for a while, you know. So somebody like the German Chancellor has been there for a couple of years now, although she's doing it constitutionally, you know, winning election back to back, you know, and so on. Putin has always been there, and I'm not sure he's going so soon. based on his own antics, and way of handling the political atmosphere of Russia.
Well, those are fairly settled politics. President Muhammadu Buhari at the ECOWAS summit in Niamey, Niger Republic, issued the advisory to say, look, we just must be careful about tenure allegation because of the crisis that it provokes. You have seen what has happened in the West African sub-region. There are a number of sit-tight rulers, not just in West Africa, but elsewhere on the African continent. Before he passed away and before he was edged out, Robert Mugabe was in office for about 37 years. Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, now you have Togo, you've had
Cameroon.
Cameroon. Sometimes you just forget that Paul Biya has been there for almost 40 years.
40 years, exactly,
after Amadou Ahidjo. But no, Cameroon.
Yeah.
So when you take a look at that, it's worrisome. And then look at Cote d'Ivoire. You can see the crisis that erupted after Gbagbo, tried to manipulate the system. And now
Ouattara is also trying to do the same thing.
Absolutely. Now, Ouattara has exhausted his tenure, but he now says that he's seeking a further extension. And the issue is not seeking further extension. What happens usually is the manipulation of the Constitution.
Exactly.
So the Constitution is then amended to suit the individual. I think we have to learn from all of this and stop the crisis, because it bleeds the crisis, it bleeds the continent of resources.
I sometimes suggest a kind of a diarchy for African nations. A kind of diarchy. If you're a civilian leader, when your tenure is over, you just get out. If you don't get out, someone will get you out. You just leave and we organize a fresh election. As simple as that. But this issue of manipulating the Constitution to remain in power, I mean, it should not be allowed to continue. If you have a diarchy, then there's a little bit of a force around you. If you don't want to obey the Constitution, they will tell you how to obey. how to obey it.
Well, diarchy has never been an option.
I'm just making a suggestion for African nations. We see politics is politics everywhere, and it's also homegrown, right? And it's local. Okay, so we can localize our own, develop our own concept of it. Well, what you need to do is ensure we have a civilian administration at every point in time.
Yeah. But you see what has happened in Mali.
Of course.
So if you say that, okay, Mali now, it's...
To be honest with you, Kingsley, I am not a supporter of a military regime. But what happened in Mali, for me, I commend it. Because look, when some leaders begin to create this sort of atmosphere, as if they are gods, you don't do that. You don't do that. The moment you start, then what Mali did for me was okay. My friend, step out.
So after the fact of what they did, what next?
Step aside. No. What next is this? Organize a civil administration, organize election, and take off from there. So,
all right. So the Mali military authorities already have a September 15th deadline, as we read from one of the papers, to appoint a civilian head of transition who will take the country to the next political level. So that does it for our newspaper review segment. We, of course, will be discussing the Edo governorship election, which is taking place next week, and all the lead up to it.
NTA TV College Jos, an affiliate of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, is currently admitting students for its ordinary diploma programs in television journalism, television production, and television engineering. Interested candidates are advised to obtain relevant information concerning eligibility at our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or marketing department of any NTA station nationwide. For further information, contact Assistant Director, Marketing, NTA TV College Jos on 0803-314-4383 or the Academic Office of the College on 0806-980-9807. Announcer, Registrar.
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool! Wow! And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this.
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white cloths, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it. Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white cloths, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
Good Morning Nigeria is reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. Before we kickstart our conversation this morning on Edo 2020 governorship election campaigns, Oyemi Ajayi has put together a backgrounder to set the tone for the discussion. Stay with us.
The clock is ticking and the D-Day is fast approaching as the countdown to the September 19 Edo governorship election draws nearer. With 14 political parties contesting the election, the political gladiators are already pulling their weight with two major political parties showing dominance. Pastor Eze Yamo of the All Progressives Congress APC and the incumbent governor Godwin Obaseki pitching on the side of the People's Democratic Party PDP. Both have made their intentions known, with Yamo talking about 6-point agenda, which includes generation of employment as well as to continue the Benin Water Storm project designed to check flooding in the state. For months, series of activities have taken place in the course of campaigns which ended in violence and attacks on the followers of both parties, prompting stakeholders and other concerned Nigerians to appeal for peaceful conduct from all sides. On his part, the Oba of Benin, Oba Ewaye II, has called on the political actors in the state to call their supporters to order ahead of the election, charging them to restrain their supporters from turning the state to a war theater. In its observation, a non-governmental organization, YAGA, published its findings from the electoral activities in Edo State, with much fears and anticipation on its impacts. The report says, based on observation, 13 out of 18 local government areas are considered potentially hotspots and flashpoints of violence, while recommending the support of security agencies to curtail the proliferation and the use of firearms and other weapons, as well as ensure appropriate sanctions for those implicated in thuggery and violence. Now, as the D-Day is fast approaching, how best can the political actors behave in order to ensure peaceful election, even amidst COVID-19 pandemic, which supporters and players have continued to flout during campaign? This question and more are before guests already seated for this edition of Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Abdul Malik. And seated already here in the studio is our discussants who are also regulars on our show. First, I'd like to introduce Esther Uzoma, co-convener, Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Also seated here is Gali Ibrahim, Dr. Gali Ibrahim, Sheriff, political scientist. Of course, it's a pleasure to have you with us this morning because we're talking politics.
Thank you for having me.
Right, I belong to your domain. No mind, these lawyers, they have issues.
Learned colleagues.
They have issues.
Well, Kira, I don't know what you are getting at this morning, because Esther Uzoma, of course, is a lawyer.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, and I'm also a lawyer.
Yes.
And our guest, who's joining us from our Benin Network Center, is also a lawyer. Yeah. Pastor Osage Ezeyamu is the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress. Pastor Osage Ezeyamu, a pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Much. Thanks for inviting me. Good morning.
All right. But as I begin the conversation with you, Pastor Osage Ezeyamu, the Edo governorship elections will take place next Saturday. And from all indications, there is every evidence, as it were, that this year's elections are unique. And you are also a veteran of elections in that state, having participated in the 2016 governorship election, plus, of course, being the Director General of the re-election campaign of Oshomole in 2012. But from your own perspective, what makes this year's Edo governorship elections all the more different?
Well, thank you very much. The reason why I'm sure many people are a bit fascinated by the election is that there's been a musical chair politically. You recall that 4 years ago, when I contested for this same governorship, I contested on the platform of the PDP, and Governor Baseki contested on the platform of the APC. But 4 years after, which is now, I'm contesting on the platform of the APC, and he's contesting on the platform of the PDP. There's no doubt that this switch is bound to arouse a lot of curiosity and questions. But again, it's also an isolated election. Apart from the Ondo election that might be coming up soon, there's no immediate election, so all the focus is on Edo State, all the media hype is on Edo State. But it's still an election, and we are hopeful that the relevant agencies will do what is needful, INEC and the security agencies. And then our people too will come out en masse to vote, and at the end of the day, the result will count. So despite the excitement and speculations, we are quite hopeful that everything will go well. And by the 20th, we hope the results will be announced and the winner will be declared.
All right. Thank you, governorship candidate for the APC. Several weeks ago, Edo appeared to be a state where the key stakeholders have decided to start the fight in such a manner that the nation actually became apprehensive of what may happen in that state during and after election. But of course, a few weeks later, there was this kind of calm that we are beginning to feel about Edo State, especially when the Oba of Benin had to had a word or two with the key stakeholders, including your humble self. Fill us in with the situation in Edo State with respect to the preparations for this election. This time around, I want you to talk about the different camps in terms of followers, in terms of campaigns, and of course the behavioral pattern for today. With respect to your followers who have been accused in the past of course, being violent, not just yours, but on the both sides.
Well, I think that the media especially should be very specific in terms of those who are engaging themselves in violent conduct. I'll be very sincere with you that in all this, we have conducted ourselves very peacefully. And if you want me to be specific, I'll tell you that even in cases where the police have made arrests or the truth has been told, it's been clear that most of this violent conduct has been from the other political party. We also want to thank His Royal Majesty the Oba of Benin for the meeting that he called. If you had watched that tape, you would also notice that in as much as he told us not to engage in any blame game, but he also pointed out the direction where the violence must stop or where the talks must be ordered to stop whatever they are doing. So we are committed to peaceful campaign. We believe that the only way winner will emerge is if the election is peaceful. And in all the campaigns we have done, we have stressed the need for peaceful conduct. Unfortunately, the other side, that is the one that is engaged in this violent act, are also the ones who are also going to the press to give the impression that Edo has become a war zone. My take is that they are trying as much as possible to scare voters from coming on that day. You know, when you scare voters and the turnout is low, that is when manipulations are very easy. Unlike when you have a lot of people coming out, and it's difficult because many of the time they want to watch what is happening, they want to make sure the results count. But when there is nobody there, you can write all kinds of fictitious figures. So the truth is that it is the same people who are engaging in violence who are also the first to go and report. I'll give you an example. We had a report from Apana in Isako West that the PDP rally was disrupted by APC followers. But luckily somebody filmed it. And by the time we watched the tape, it was the reverse. We actually saw PDP dogs going into the communities, shooting, and creating all kinds of mayhem. And in fact, even forcing the police to stop recording. And even the deputy governor himself admitted that he had to seize the phone of the area commander, an assistant commissioner of police, a woman. Why would you seize that phone? He did it because he felt that they were recording what they were doing. And it was unfortunate. But it were the same people who came on air to say that their rallies were disrupted when it was not so. Now look at the House of Assembly when the place was vandalized. The governor took people there. Unfortunately, 7 of these young boys were arrested with arms. They were taken to Abuja, and when the investigations were concluded, and they found out that those who sponsored them are high-ranking officers in the Edo State government. They brought them to Benin to charge them. Those people that sponsored them are still at large. Nobody has arrested them. But unfortunately, the state government has actually arranged for their bail. Young men who had guns, who went to the House of Assembly for whatever purpose you can imagine. And you can imagine that at the time when we are talking about violence being possible in the election, people who have shown a propensity for violence have been arrested with arms, and yet, days to the election, they have been released on bail. On what basis? Was it in the public good for such people to be released? Who facilitated their bail? If you go to our detention centers, you see people who have been there for God knows how long. These people did not even spend up to 1 week before they were released on bail. This is worrisome. Which party did they belong to? Who arranged their bail? So a lot of times when people are talking about violence from the political parties, they need to be a bit more specific. I have written to the police a lot of times, you know, my billboards being destroyed, my posters being removed. You know, when you go to town, it's like, oh, we don't have posters, but it's not true. Every time we do them at night, they go there and they remove all of them. And the only reason why, you know, our people have been very law-abiding is that we continue to appeal to them, that they must not take the laws into their hands. Even before the Oba made the appeal, we have been stressing this, that, look, we understand the intention of these people is to create a war zone so that everybody will be scared to come out. So no matter the provocation, what you can do or what you should do is to report to the appropriate authorities. Go and report to the police. Incident the matter. But on no condition must you say, because they slapped you, you must slap them back. We went to Ewu in a rally, and 2 young men came. You know, they have been thoroughly beaten. Why? Because they were putting my posters in a particular place, and the local government council chairman told talks to attack them. And they attacked them. And the crowd were incensed and said, oh, they must retaliate. I said, no, just go and report to the police. You know, don't do anything about it. And that is the pattern we have followed. And I want to assure you that we will continue to follow that pattern. We are very confident of our acceptability at the grassroots. So we're not going to do anything that would make our people to be afraid. And we'll continue to appeal to them that no matter what, they must come out. And for me, though, because it's an isolated election, I believe that the security agencies will have more than enough manpower to be able to go all over the place. Once that manpower is there, I'm sure that nobody will dare do anything that is stupid. So I'm very confident that, you know, those who think that there will be so much violence will be shocked. On that day, it will be peaceful, people will go and vote, and the votes will count. So that's my take.
All right. Thank you very much, Pastor Sagie Ezeyemo. And just for our viewers to know that we'll expect the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, that's incumbent Governor Godwin Obaseki, to be our guest on Good Morning Nigeria either tomorrow or Friday. He's still trying to work out his convenient schedule to be our guest on Good Morning Nigeria, so he will have his own opportunity of also stating either his case or responding to some of the issues that will arise in the course of today's conversation. But I still want to stay with you, Pastor Osagie Ezeyamo. You say that the campaigns have been going on. Now, some outsiders would say to themselves that, look, the campaigns have been, in their opinion, full of hot air, name-calling, insults, and all that. What really are the issues in these elections?
Well, thank you very much. Again, what you have said is true, but, you know, it's coming from one side. Everywhere I have gone, you will see me talking about the simple agenda. Even in this place, I brought it here. Everywhere I've gone, you know, printed, published, being circulated all over the state. And the beautiful thing about it is that even little children, old women, youths, everywhere I go, they understand what the simple agenda stands for. So for the first time, we have created a level of political consciousness whereby our people know the manifesto, the agenda of a candidate. In the past, it wasn't so. So I'm very proud to say that everywhere in Edo, in the 192 wards, they can tell you Pastor Ezeyamo, or PO as they like to call me, has a simple agenda. On the other hand, when you watch the campaign of Godwin Obaseki, surprisingly, all you see them talking about is that they are abusing Oshomole, or they are playing tips where Oshomole was praising Obaseki. And that to me is strange. For a governor who is seeking re-election, I would have thought that the re-election campaign would be an opportunity for him to showcase his stewardship, to tell the people, look at the things I have done. I had the opportunity to be DG to Adams Oshomole in the second term. And I remember that he kept telling people, this is not ear mark. What I want you to vote for is eye mark. What have I done? Look around. I've done your roads. I've done schools. I've done water. You know, and people were very impressed with it. And not surprisingly, he won the entire state. He won the 18 local government. But Obaseki, you are abusing Oshomole. You are saying no to Godfatherism. And yet, you are still depending on the tape he used in praising you 4 years ago to tell people that, oh, the man praised you 4 years ago. They should vote for you. But the man is not praising you now. Or rather, you are carrying tapes where the man abused Pastor Ezeyamo, forgetting that the man now is supporting Pastor Ezeyamo. So I'm surprised that rather than face issues and tell us either what he has done or what he intends to do, all the campaign is still on the past. Very negative campaign, name calling. But I have restrained myself from that. All I've been doing is talking about the simple agenda. And the only time I've had to speak about him is to estray his administration. Has he done well? And the answer everywhere is no. So I am not involved in name calling. I'm not involved in negative campaign. Everywhere I've gone, I've spoken about my simple agenda. The governor says he has an agenda called Mega. Of course, when he was flagging off his campaign, he never mentioned it. He started talking about it when people say, look, Pastor is talking about simple agenda. Where is your own? Now, the Mega agenda, nobody has seen it. Mine is here. Nobody has seen it. You're not talking about it. Nobody knows what it means. You know, my agenda is clear. Everybody knows that the simple is an acronym. You know, security and social welfare, infrastructural development, urban renewal, you know, manpower development, public-private partnership, leadership by example, employment and empowerment. So everybody knows. I don't even need to tell them anymore. Before I start saying it, they begin to recite it. What does Mega agenda means? Explain it to the people. But rather, 90% of your campaign is on Oshomole. Oshomole is not on the ballot. You know, he helped you to be governor many years ago, but he has gone. He has finished his term. You are contesting with Pastor Ezeyamo. And whether you are going to win or lose, you must tell the people, what have you done in the past 4 years? But rather than do that, so that we can look at it and say, oh, this man has done well. He deserves a re-election. All you're saying is about the past. You are still playing Oshomole's tapes. Oshomole praising you, and yet Oshomole is a godfather. And yet you want us to listen to him when he was praising you, or when he was abusing Pastor Ezeyamo in an attempt to support you. So when you are talking about negative campaign, let's be specific. Everywhere I have gone, I have sold the simple agenda. Everybody knows about it. Everybody is talking about it. What is the Mega agenda? Where is a copy of it? I've not seen it. Mine is all over the states. So I think it is quite clear. Just like, you know, when you want to talk about blame, you want to say, oh, the parties. No, let's not generalize. Let's be specific.
I can understand how you feel when the man who's supporting you is being shown on TV supporting your opponent, I can understand how you feel, you know, because TV has a way of capturing people's attention. Right, and on the issue of the mega you're talking about, well, perhaps he has a way of reaching out to people on his mega strategy. You have your own method of doing that, so we appreciate it. Thank you once again. We're going to return to the studio here and talk to Esther first. Esther, of course, you've listened to Isaiah Yamu, and I'm sure you have a picture of what Benin is like, presently. You are a monitor of elections in this country with a huge experience, in terms of understanding the dynamics of states. Edo, for instance. What is it for you come Saturday when the election will take place? Having looked at all the campaigns, all the languages being applied at the different quarters, by the opposition parties and what have you. What do you foresee on Saturday? I mean, the day of this election.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kirian. Come Saturday, this is a unique election.
Saturday, September 19th.
That's right. Saturday, September 19th. It's a unique election. We've never had something like it before. It's a COVID election. And so...
Sorry, are they electing COVID or what?
No, these elections are going to be held during this period, of the pandemic. Now, Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room, where I'm co-chair, we've had visits with various stakeholders. We engaged the Inspector General of Police. For the first time, the IG initiated the meeting with CSOs. Before now, it's CSOs that will say, oh, IG, come and tell us what your people are doing. But this particular IG said, please, come, let us talk. And we did tell him it's a step in the right direction. We engaged with him. They briefed us on their manpower deployment. They'll have 3 helicopters in the 3 senatorial, districts, deployment of Nigerian police, and then their activities at the level of the interagency, committee. And so we're, on the part of INEC, we are going to be looking out for compliance with the new code for voters, code of conduct for voters. INEC did bring out a COVID guideline in conjunction with NDDC, taking break from so what we're going to be looking out for is compliance. Face masks should not be branded. You don't go and say, oh, because there's compulsory face masks. If you don't wear your face masks, you cannot vote. Then you go and put on a face mask with the logo of a political party. That is out of it. The social distancing, we also look out for the extent of compliance. And we're also looking at, they said, listen, they're going to have 2 lines, one outer and one inner. We're going to see to what extent that is complied with. And of course, temperature checks, the thermal devices that will be used by INEC compulsorily to ensure that persons who come to vote are not persons with symptoms. We're going to be looking out for compliance with all that. Provision of alcohol-based sanitizers. We're going to be looking out for all that. Because INEC said, listen, if anybody who is displaying symptoms, who has symptoms, will not be permitted to vote. Anybody who is displaying symptoms, high temperature, seizing, coughing, they say, listen, you have to be isolated and not permitted to vote. So we're going to be looking out for how does all this pan out? The problem of crowd control and all that. But above all, also, we're monitoring the process now, and we're looking at the gladiators. Now, in all the local governments, we have also isolated flashpoints, possible areas of violence. Isako East, West, Eshan, and all some other local governments. And above all, we're looking at the conduct of the gladiators. What are they doing? What is their body language? How are they encouraging their followers, to violence one way or the other? So for me, these elections will gain a lot of experience as we proceed to Ondo. All right. Let's see. It's know how it will be difficult to manage the crowd at this point in time. They are reducing the number of collation areas. They are reducing the number of racks so that contacts will be limited. These are some of the virgin guidelines brought by INEC, which are provoked by the pandemic. So these are a lot of issues that I'll be looking at. What about the live transmission of results? For the first time, results will be from the polling units. We're going to be getting the results live. And so these are new things, and we'll see how it all pans out. Yes.
All right, Esther, thank you very much. Of course, we'll return to you to deal with some other specific aspects of the election. Dr. Ghali Sharif, what is your reading of the lead-up to the Edo governorship polls?
Well, the lead-up is clearly manifest, especially in the campaign processes. Looking at the historiography of democratic campaigns, coming down to Nigeria and looking at Edo elections or governorship elections 2020, we have actually itemized the nature of campaigning processes, especially as conducted right from the Greek city-state. We've seen a situation whereby the biodata at mail or mailing, where the APC candidate, try to push a biography of himself, either by the political party itself, by the political leaders, giving his biography to show that this man, served under Oshomole himself, and he's a pastor. This is his position, in the state. So apart from this, we also see the name ID at mailing. Why? Because we have seen how one name actually dominating the election processes. Why? Because if you ask people, they'll tell you it's an election between Godwin Obaseki and Oshomole. Why? Because the campaign processes of APC, if you critically look at it, the people claim that it is like Oshomole campaigning for Yamo,
That's
so
right.
to say. So that is why all the features and characteristics of typologies of campaign are actually being displayed, in the Edo elections. But one major thing that brought out a kind of political ineptitude in the process is that if you look at the issues-based campaign processes of the two candidates, the mega agenda, as he made mention of, looking at the security issue, education, infrastructure, and one major issue which Obaseki promised, to the people is that he promised to build, or he has succeeded in building schools, with doors and windows that cannot be vandalized. So that actually made me laugh. Why? Because in Nigeria, not only primary, secondary school, even university, classrooms or lecture halls, whenever you get there,
That's
you see that
right.
all these places are open, for students to get in. And so I was imagining, the schools in Edo State, are they going to be stocked with golds and diamonds? That, for people to be afraid of vandalizing, this particular process. So I think it is, it is politically naive, to have announced this. Then coming down to the APC candidate also, part of the simple agenda, he made mention of job creation, public-private partnership, leadership by example. You need to lead before you determine to the people that you have led by example. So I think it shouldn't come out of even a campaign agenda, because you were not a governor before. And what example could you actually table to the people? You know, legitimacy by example. What have you done? So I think that shouldn't have been part of the simple agenda, you know, of the campaign processes. And just as she said, it is going to be a COVID-19 election. I see it as a precursor to the 2023 elections. Why? Because if the ruling party, allows the PDP to actually have Edo State, it is a testing ground, because that will actually have...
what do you mean allow, if they allow?
If you
are you suggesting they would throw the election?
No. I mean, we are talking of campaign now. You know, campaign is all about political communications. Campaign is all about influence. You know, you give out people, your agenda, you know, what you want to achieve politically. So you sell your own self, you know, to the people. So if you are able to sell, to market yourself to the electorate. So if you are not able to do it, then you allow the other party to take it all, then there is going to be a political issue there. So what I mean, if you are not able to market yourself politically to the electorate, and you allow the opposition take over, then that is a signal for 2023 also. Then, if the APC returns, then we have so many variables at play. Why? Because she made mention of INEC. INEC says that it is not even after the election outcome, but INEC is after the integrity of the elections, the acceptability of the elections, how it should be able to make people accept the result of these particular elections and conduct a free and fair elections, you know, in Edo 2020 governorship election.
Dr. Gali, thank you. Kyria, I know Pastor Osage is still there and is going to be with us throughout the rest of the program, so he will have the opportunity of responding to the issues raised, including, for instance, the one by Dr. Gali, whether or not leadership by example ought to be an item in his manifesto. But I was just wondering, how much of an issue can we make of the fact that these are personalities who are changing platforms and they are all interrelated? I'm asking this question, Dr. Gali, and then perhaps Esther may also respond before we return to Pastor Sergei Zeyamo. In 2016, Adams Oshomole, as incumbent governor, outgoing governor, campaigned for Obaseki, who was then a candidate of APC. Now, in 2020, Oshomole is campaigning for Osage Ezeyamo, who then was the challenger in that election in 2016. And in 2012, as Pastor Osage Ezeyamo himself has also indicated, Osage Ezeyamo was the Director General of the Oshomole re-election campaign. If you were to play the tape back to 2007, I'm sure that those who understand the politics of the state will get all of those details. So does it really matter that this person campaigned for that person at the other time and the other person is campaigning for this one? What, in your opinion, if that doesn't matter, what should matter?
Actually, what should matter is political ideology to be maintained strictly within the political terrain. And I could remember that decades ago, former Nigerian head of state, Gowon, uttered clearly that politicians are bereft of ideology, most especially in our own country. So looking at, he made mention of it, Ezeyamo, that there are going to be questions, of course, you know, attached to it. What made the change is that he was formerly under the platform of PDP and now under the banner of APC. And Obaseki was under the banner of APC and now PDP. So you can easily understand that if I belong to a political party, what are the tenets and principles of the ideological stance that actually allows me to stick to that particular political party? You know, for me, seeing the other political party not at a foe, but as an opposition party. But politicians should actually define and redefine themselves, also subject themselves to principles and tenets, politically oriented. Having that particular ideology will allow you to stick. If you look at the hitherto political fathers in Nigeria, you come to understand that they stick to one ideology and one political party. One Nigeria, as well as the manifestations, as well as the ideology of the political party that they created. But now it is not the ideology. People are after just the position and the seat that they are actually looking for. We all know this. In Nigeria, politicians are not after that political ideology that will make them create a fruitful political outcome for the state, either the nation, but rather is for their own interest. And that is why but it is rather natural, you know, to actually change bases. When Oshomole supported Obaseki in 2016, he discovered that he was the best candidate, you know, at that particular moment. And even now, when Obaseki was actually disqualified under the banner of APC, then what do? Who should be the best contender for us to actually bring in to contend, you know, to contest these particular elections? So he now, they now brought in Eze Yamo, you know, to contest under the banner of APC. So you can see what politicians ought to do within the framework of Nigerian politics is to maintain political ideology and have the services of their people at heart first, not actually their own interest. And for Oshomole, for example, because it is still his name that is resonating, I've watched people say that it is an election between Obaseki and Oshomole. Why? Because if you go by Oshomole, they know that you are going for the broom symbol, which is the APC. And if you go for Oshomole, you are going for Yamo. So Oshomole is panelistically, you know, the godfather to APC in the state, as well as the APC candidate. So, but one major issue is that Oshomole himself, being a godfather within that particular party, losing at the federal level, you know, the chairmanship of that particular party, I shouldn't actually face a complete and a sheer political fiasco, i.e., not just for me to lose the federal level and I become, meaningless, you know, in my own state. So that is why he tries to create that particular political shield to make sure that this man is actually brought out and well supported. And I give you an example.
All right, you know, we'll pause you. Esther has been itching to say something.
Yes, you see, Kingsley, the question you ask, should it matter, of what significance? You know, it is significant to the extent that these persons are portrayed as flip-floppers. A doubtful man is unstable in all his ways. I didn't say that. Pastor Yamo knows who said that. It's the good books. And so that impression, that picture of being a flip-flopper, you know, it is very, I doubt if it is good. And it gives the electorate the impression that, you know, or rather, it is born out of vulgar pride. Wherever I go, the people will follow me. It is extreme, vulgar, degenerate pride. Think people do not have a mind of their own? I go A, they go follow me to A. I go to B, they follow me to B. You know, it is born out of that degenerate pride. You know, they will always follow me, which is not. So to the extent that.
But can you contextualize that? Because there is a constitutional requirement for you to belong to a political party to contest election. Some persons would argue. And to the extent that sometimes you get squeezed out of a platform, you have no choice. We have had cause to discuss that on this program in the past.
Yes. I like the word you use, advisedly, squeezed out. You know, so what that squeezing out ordinarily gives the impression that, oh, something foul has happened. That is it. You know, and the persons who, you know, are interested in power, you know what it is, you know, to be the center, you know, of the orbit. Suddenly you are of no consequence. You know, like the doctor said, you were everything at the center. Suddenly you come home and then, you know, so that impression, the significance is this. Number one, it portrays these gladiators as persons who do not have strong political, ideological anchorage. It is about winning. they're both saying the same thing now. It's the people who left here that also went there. So there's nothing to persuade you. There's not even an attempt to school citizens on the ideology. So this is what I believe. Nothing like that. It's just let me win at all costs. Okay, so that the significance is that our politics is still a work in progress. We do not have convicted or persons who are convinced of any ideology. Ask Edo people, what's the difference? What is the difference? For the only significant thing they remember is the flip-flops. That is the only significant thing. And there are 1,001 reasons.
You also find that at the national level.
Well, that is the tragedy of our politics. But it's playing out here because of, somebody was squeezed out, he flipped. Another person who was on the other side. You understand what I mean? In fact, besides there's something not tidy about it. And so you ask yourselves, where do we go from here?
Yeah, something very, very tidy about it with respect to ideology. Edo is a special case, because the gladiators in Edo have always been around, have been around and changing size and platforms, but yet they are the same thing. Right, so let's return to Pastor Iyamo. The election is on Saturday, the 19th of September 2020. And the atmosphere now, of course, is fired with campaigns and door-to-door campaigns, rallies, and what have you. What are your expectations, on Saturday with respect to voter turnout, INEC being capable of handling the situation as always, CSOs such as Esther and her colleagues who are going to be in Edo State. So what is it for you? I mean, what can you read, with respect to Saturday, and what you also wish to see on Saturday? Because I know you want to win, no doubt about that, but you don't have to win through a process, campaigns, conventions, and what have you. Well, you, of course, have a strategic paper you always present to the people here, a simple agenda, if I get it right. Okay, and you have not actually told us how the simple agenda will be achieved or how it will impact on people.
Thank you very much. Well, I believe that INEC is doing their work. The security agencies are doing their work. I was pleased to hear that for the first time, the IG invited the CSOs for an interface to discuss what they are doing. We're also doing some very intensive campaign, going from door to door. So despite the COVID situation, we expect that there will be a fairly large turnout. And my message, my simple agenda has resonated very well with our people. So I'm very optimistic of doing well. But let me clarify some issues, especially the ones raised by Dr. Ibrahim. I think that it's an insult to say that the election is between Obaseki and Oshomole. That is the narrative that Godwin Obaseki has tried to play, because everywhere he goes to, he talks about Oshomole. He plays Oshomole's tapes, he talks about Oshomole. But those who know me will know that I'm not new to this game. My people know me, I've lived with them, and I've attained a very solid record. Even when I contested last time, I'm sure you all saw the scorecard. So it's wrong to create the impression that because Adams Oshomole is campaigning for somebody from his party, this election is all about him. That would be very wrong. Governor Obaseki is more or less importing governors to come to Edo State to campaign for him. Governor Okowa has practically relocated to Edo State, even bringing graders from Delta to come and grade Edo State roads. That would tell you the level of their own desperation. So for anybody to say that it's Oshomole that is contesting is an insult on Pastor Iyamo. And then number two, I'm surprised. It appears that Dr. Ibrahim has not read the simple agenda. What you have not read, you shouldn't comment on it. It's absurd to say that you have to be a governor to talk about leadership by example. Leadership by example is talking about transparency, accountability, the rule of law, appreciating the fact that there's separation of powers. not interfering in the functions of the judiciary or of the House of Assembly. Respect for traditional institutions. Access to our people through town hall meetings. That is the essence and is fundamental to leadership. So to suggest that you have to be a governor first before you can articulate these things is ridiculous. And I'm shocked that, a doctor, a PhD holder, who want to come up with such a bogus assertion. It's shocking. And then be that as it may, when you talk about moving from party to party, I think sometimes we try to be too hard. My sister mentioned just now that, when a doubtful man is unstable. No, I'm not doubtful. When I contested 4 years ago, my agenda was clear, the simple agenda. I'm contesting again, and the agenda is the same, the simple agenda. Even in civil societies, you can change your NGO. That does not mean that you have become unstable. In reality, in life, you have vehicles. And if you find out that the vehicle you are using to propagate what you believe in is not as effective as you thought, you change. In life, people have career changes. A man can start out in life as a doctor and end up being a businessman. It doesn't make him unstable. It's just that he has realized that this profession will not be the best. So what is important is that what do you stand for? What do you want to achieve? I would have thought that, people will applaud that for the first time, you can identify a candidate with his idea, with his agenda. Rather, you are obsessed with the fact that, the man moved from one place before. In any event, the APC you are talking about, I was a founder of the APC. So my coming back is homecoming. The reason that made me leave is known. A disagreement. And even in families, you can disagree and leave and stray back. My sister who talked about the Bible knows the story of the prodigal son. Nobody's, outside mistakes or outside the quarrels. It happens all the time. Even couples can separate and come back. So I came back to the party I founded. You can't say the same for the incubator, so don't mistake it. He was never in PDP. In fact, he dismissed PDP as the worst party ever, irresponsible. So in my own case, I left because there were differences. And it's not a question about anywhere you go, your followers go with you. For me, my politics is people-centered. If my people believe that this is not the vehicle, we should go here. That's the reason why I'm in politics. I will follow them. But the reality is that, what do I stand for? In all this, my manifesto, my agenda, my roadmap for good governance has been consistent. So this election, don't mistake, it for the narrative that they're trying to sell. Obaseki, for this is best known to him, is so obsessed with Oshomole and it's all about Oshomole. And every time you're talking about Godfather, I was the first in Edo State to start a group called the Grace Group in 2005 with the slogan, "No man is good." And before Oshomole, when he came in, he said no to Godfatherism. So those who want to put the label of Godfather on him today are only being mischievous. Godfather to who? The man did 8 years, he has left. But to think that participating or campaigning for somebody translates to Godfatherism, then maybe we're talking about two different meanings of Godfather. I don't think he's trying to be a Godfather. He has a right, especially when he believes that he made a mistake before. He supported somebody before who was relatively unknown. He supported him. And all of a sudden, he finds out that everything that the man was supposed to have done in terms of good roads, in terms of education, they have not done. Dr. Ibrahim was talking about, he has built schools. Where? It's not even a question about promising that he will do schools that nobody can enter. Where did he do the schools? Nothing. All the money that they've collected for primary health education, they have spent it on what they call the best. No new school, nothing, no teachers. It will surprise you that over 38% of the teacher workforce in Edo State have either retired or they have died. They are not there. So in most of the schools you are going to find just one teacher. One principal, one teacher. One headmaster, one teacher. What kind of school or education are we giving to our children when there are no teachers in schools? The vacancy has been there for over 4 or 5 years ago, and it's still there. So what are you talking about? So I think that we need to focus on the agenda. They asked me just now, how do you intend to achieve the simple agenda? This document is self-explicit. And I would have thought that a program like this, NTA network, would have been an opportunity to say, okay, you have a simple agenda. Can you expatiate on it? But rather we keep trying to talk about, oh, godfatherism, moving from party to party. We are the ones missing the issues. We should set an agenda for our people to understand that this election should be issue-based. The simple agenda that I have is very clear. For me, Edo cannot move forward in the absence of security. And security is not cheap. And I have said that government must fund it. Not necessarily even put in a new budget. The money we spend on security vote is more than enough to improve the security architecture of our state. Unfortunately, it has become like a pocket money to the governor. It's not being used. When you see the amount being given to the police, for example, or the lack of equipment that they have, or even vehicles, that will tell you that we don't consider security as anything. In the same way with infrastructure. How much are we spending on infrastructure?
I recall that part of my last question to you was to explain the practicability of your simple agenda. Because simple as it sounds, it could be complex, in terms of implementation. But you have not been able to, pick out any item or items, as the case may be, and do an analysis that can convince me or any other person here that what you have as an agenda is actually going to work. I asked that question, but perhaps because you have other issues to raise, you didn't go to that. But again, Dr. Gali Ibrahim Sheriff is actually a political analyst. What he said, he was analyzing. But I believe, and he also does, that the election is between you, Pastor Isaiah Yamo, and Obasaki. Now, saying that the election is between Obasaki and Oshomole, for me, is reflective of Edo situation. Not necessarily that you're not part of the election or something like that. That's what my understanding. All right, so please, just take it easy with him. He's from the classroom.
Pastor, when I made the statement that a doubtful person is unstable in all his ways, I'm surprised that you rose in defense. I wasn't even referring to him. I'm surprised that he started, you reacted to it as if I was talking about,
Esther,
about you.
Yeah, Esther, I think that there are some issues on the table, or there were issues on the table to which he needed to respond.
He specifically called me.
Including, you said that he's a man of God, and therefore...
Because I quoted the Bible.
Yes, because he should know the reference to that. Again, you can see, if we are not careful, we may now be slipping into some of the issues and matters that tend to frame the perception of the election that is forthcoming in the state. Pastor Sagi Ezeyamo, you have the opportunity, the program is not coming to an end yet, to respond to the question by my colleague Kyria and to say, look, you have already indicated what the acronym SIMPLE stands for. The practicability of it is another point that you have to deal with. You've also had to respond to the issue of godfatherism and so on and so forth. So we're going to have to take a short break now. When we return from the break, we'll return to you and you deal with those issues and we'll proceed.
A new edition of TV Guide is out, featuring great personalities from all walks of life. Expository interview with a young TV presenter who shows passion on what she does, Morayo Afolabi Brown of TVC. Pick a copy of this compendium of mind-blowing stories and get abreast with issues as regards media convergence, leadership, health, star profiles, star programs, fashion, sports, human angle stories, and lots more. Meet some media professionals within our space who have paid their dues in no small ways. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Like every mother, I'm worried about dangerous insects, especially mosquitoes, which spread diseases like malaria to my loved ones. This year, I'm not afraid. I'm using New Mortein Insta-Kill. New Mortein Insta-Kill's improved formulation knocks down mosquitoes 2 times faster. Not even a single mosquito is spared because even one mosquito bite can cause malaria. Mortein Insta knocks down mosquitoes 2 times faster.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19. A corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 22 55 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
All right, welcome back. And it's still Good Morning Nigeria live on NTA's network service. We still have all our guests with us. The candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Pastor Sagi Ezeyam, is right there in our Benin Network Center. And we still have our two analysts here with us in the studios. Veteran election monitor, Esther Zoma, who's also a lawyer, Dr. Gale Ibrahim Sharif, a political scientist. Let's return to Pastor Sagi Ezeyam in our Benin Network Center. Pastor Sagi Ezeyam, now let's focus on the core issues. You've referenced the simple agenda. What exactly should the people expect? And what, in the course of your campaigns, have you heard as the demands of the people in this election?
Thank you very much. Let me first start with security. The insecurity in our state is getting worse by the day, and we must tackle it if we intend to bring development and investors to our state. For me, security is not cheap, so we need to invest in it. 4 years ago, the security fund, the security vote was around 4.5 billion every year. The present governor came and increased it to around 7.5 billion, which translates to around 600 million every month. Unfortunately, the same pittance that was being given to the Edo State Police Command 4 years ago, which is 5 million a month, is the same thing that is being done now. You cannot give the Edo State Police Command 5 million naira and expect any serious result in terms of handling security challenges. So we intend to improve on the funding to our security agencies. Yes, they are federal agencies, but they are operating in our states, and we need our state to be secured. So getting vehicles, getting equipments, walkie-talkies and radios, acquiring a tracker so that when kidnappers make demands, we're able to track them and know where they are things we intend to invest in. And we'll put money in the police. We went to Iruekbe. A major challenge there was that they need to have a police post, a DPO office, and they can't build it. So can government do it for them? That is something that government should gladly do. Number two, vigilantes have always played a complementary role. In fact, in the past, they were very effective in keeping our villages, our farms, and our rural areas very, very safe. Unfortunately, the communities that used to fund them are no longer buoyant. They can't do so. So these vigilantes have more or less withdrawn, leaving the job only for the police. And of course, the police don't have the manpower to be able to cope with our vast geography. So we intend to deliberately do a census of the vigilante groups in our state and have a very effective community policing. I was telling somebody that, look, if from the security vote alone, if we were to take 200 million, which is not too much, from a security vote of over 600 million, and use it to employ vigilantes across the state, I can assure you that the security structure in our state will change for the better. So we are going to invest money in security. And by the time we do that, people will know that Edo State is safe, investors will come, businessmen will come, and things will change. Number two, infrastructure. When we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about good roads. There are so many areas that are not motorable. Our state, we are very strong in agriculture, but even to bring the food to the cities is a major problem. So we intend to identify routes, strategic economic routes, that link communities, that will carry food from the rural areas to the urban areas. And we are going to immediately work on them. We're also going to collaborate with the local governments. As at now, the local governments are practically running on their own. When I say running on their own, there's no supervision. I've not seen them doing any particular project. But in as much as we are going to encourage autonomy for local governments, we are also going to ensure that they do the needful so that we can collaborate with them and do as many roads as possible. But road, water, electrification, hospitals. Our hospitals are in a dilapidated situation. We have 34 hospitals in Edo State, and none of them is anything to write home about. The only one that Comrade built, Oshomole built, which he called the 5-star hospital, and which Baseke has now called the Edo Specialist Hospital, has been given to a private concern. And the fees he's charging has made it impossible for Edo people to enter into the place. So even though it was built with Edo payers' money, but Edo people cannot access it because the money is too much. So that, again, we need to look at. But the basic is that because of time, we are going to invest in infrastructure. Water, light, hospitals, roads, we are going to invest in them. Another area is manpower development. And here we're talking about education, training, skill acquisition. Again, it requires setting our priorities right. What is happening today is that our tertiary institutions are being closed. And Busali was getting 270 million before this administration came in. They have reduced it to 96 million. The university can no longer pay salaries, as that now they are owing workers. If you continue like that, you will collapse the place. We must increase the funding. Not even keep the funding, we must increase it. Because education is one of the largest industries in our state, and the prayer of every family in Edo is to give their children education. Because that is the only way the children of the poor can become rich. So we're going to spend a lot on education. And education cannot work in the absence of teachers. We don't have teachers. So no matter the increase in personnel cost, which some people might be running away from, we are going to employ teachers because we need them. It's not something we can say we'll do without. We need teachers. So we're going to employ teachers. We're going to also invest in skill acquisition centers. Teach our people, technical skills that will make them viable anywhere they go. Another one is public-private partnership. And that is where we intend to really reach out and interface with the private sector. We can't do it alone. It will interest you to note that in the past 4 years, there is no interface between our local businesses and government. All we have seen is traveling to China to sign MOUs. But charity begins at home. Before you even begin to go outside, what have you done to engage local businesses? How have you supported them? How have you patronized them? So through public-private partnership, we intend to work hand in hand with those who are interested in coming to our state. We will go and sell our state positively to companies in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. And we believe that will help the economy of our state. It's not even a question about spending money. It's a question about how you present your state, how you sell your state, and that we do. And the leadership example I was talking about is that we need to change the way we do things. Government must be transparent. Government must be accountable. Government must respect the rule of law. Government must understand that there is separation of power. Government must make itself accessible to the governed. These are key issues we intend to bring to governance. And that will change a lot of things. And then the E is employment and empowerment. Everything we are talking about is geared towards creating employment for our people. For example, through security alone, we intend, even the vigilante we are talking about, we would engage close to 10,000 of them and bring them under the payroll of government. The infrastructure we are going to do, most of those jobs will be done by Edo people. These are the Edo state government. We're elected by Edo state people. So the jobs we do, first and foremost, we'll look for Edo companies. And this will create jobs for our people. Because what is happening right now is capital flight. The little money that we have, they are being given to people outside our state. And they bring in people from outside to come and do jobs. And at the end of the day, nobody gains from it. So even in terms of the massive money we're going to put into infrastructure, we intend to create a lot of jobs. And by the time we start manpower training and development, our people will be taught skills. Take, for example, School of Nursing in Edo. It's been closed. That was one institution that was extremely sought after because people come from all over the world looking for nurses. But for a reason I cannot understand, for the past 3-4 years, the Edo State School of Nursing has been closed. And you can imagine the effect, negative effect and impact it's going to make on our healthcare system in years to come. Because for the past 3-4 years, we're no longer training nurses in Edo State. So that area too, by the time we do manpower training, education, skill acquisition, our people will be better skilled. The idea of, our state being stigmatized with going abroad to do any kind of thing would stop. Because we will have people who are well skilled. And that itself will create jobs. And then empowerment. Our women are extremely industrious. If you give an Edo woman 10,000, go back tomorrow, it's 20,000. So such women will need to work with organizations, finance houses, to see how we can really empower them with resources. It's not giving them wrappers during elections that they need. What they need is empowerment. And by this empowerment, we are going to work with small women all over the place. Some of them are farmers, some of them are petty traders, but we are going to put money in their hand at little or no interest. And that itself will stimulate the economy, build families. So this simple agenda, yes, it might not be as simple as it is, but if you read the document, it's self-explicit. And then the question people will ask is that in this period of COVID, with all its consequences, how do we intend to raise money? That's a major challenge. But the first thing is we need to be focused. We need to know our priorities. And we need to be prudent. The wastages in government is unbelievable. They did the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium. They renovated it. At what cost? That brings the issue of transparency. When you build a place for Edo people, you must tell them the cost. The cost is not known. But from my own inside sources, the job was awarded twice to the same contractor. And the total cost is around 6 billion. That is ridiculous. If you put 6 billion in my hand, I will put mini stadium in the 18 local government, which the present governor promised and he didn't do. And you are renovating a place. The seating capacity remains the same. You didn't increase it. There's no parking space. How could you have spent 6 billion? I cannot renovate that place and spend more than 1 or 2 billion naira. So prudence is going to free a lot of money. Money you will presently use to do 10 routes, to do 2 routes, I can use it to do 10 routes. So prudence will save a lot of money. And then number 2, in as much as we can access the capital market, we're also going to do with a lot of caution. If we are borrowing money, we have to ask ourselves for what? If we are borrowing for projects that has the tendency to bring economic returns, then fine. But if they cannot, then we need to know our priorities. I believe government must seriously focus on welfare. But at the same time, we cannot continue the borrowing spree. I'm not going to leave office and my successor cannot function because of the debts I've built there for him. So we need to be accountable. We need to be prudent. But I believe that with what we are trying to do, security, for example, is going to bring businesses into our state. Infrastructure is going to make our state more attractive for investments. The manpower training we are talking about will make our people skilled and better in what they are doing. Public-private partnership will bring businesses. For example, Ewu Flour Mill, they told me, this was a mill before that was very viable. Today, it's no longer functioning. We need to discuss with the owners to see what we can do to bring it back. So as many businesses as we have in Edo, we are going to do everything to see how we can revive them and open new ones. It will interest you to know that when I was in government, we built a Casavita factory at Uromi. Brand new Casavita factory. I don't think the present governor has stepped there one day. I don't think he has gone there. Brand new factory, generator, everything is there, but it's never been opened. It's just there. And that is the kind of thing we want to stop. I was embarrassed when the governor went to Stella Obasanjo Hospital during COVID and announced that he never knew that this kind of hospital existed. A man who was chief economic advisor to Shomole for 8 years, and the hospital was not confessing that the hospital that was down the road, Stella Obasanjo Hospital, built also by those state government, he never knew it existed. So we need to take a census of what we have, revive them. If we do that, we are going to find out that the economic situation in our state will change. Agriculture. I'm embarrassed when I hear Kebi.
All right, Pastor Iyamo, I think from your explanation, your followers, will be very glad, that you've been able to market your products, this morning extensively, and I'm sure it's going to impact on them, especially those who will be wishing to change their mind with respect to voting for you on that day. That's a good one.
But just again to remind our viewers that the Edo State incumbent governor, Godwin Obaseki, who is candidate of the People's Democratic Party, will also be our guest on Good Morning Nigeria, most likely tomorrow, Thursday or Friday, depending on how he's able to work out his schedule. We, of course, had long contacted him, and he was trying to work out his schedule. So he will have the opportunity of responding to some of those issues and also stating his case for the people of Edo State and indeed for our viewers in the country and elsewhere around the world.
Are you going to return Pastor Iyamo to on that same day?
No. It's going to be each of them is made his case. The governor will also have the opportunity of stating his case.
Or are you trying to organize an election debate?
We're not organizing an election debate.
Okay.
All right. So let's bring in our viewers now who have sent in their tweets. We have Innocent Yawa James. Edo people own the election, not any politician. It's high time the youth galvanized for peaceful conduct. The security agencies assigned should be up and about towards ensuring neutrality. We are tired of the youth being used by politicians with no sense of positive impact.
All right. I'm not sure where you're reading from, but I have this one, CREAMIER.
That's the second set of tweets that you have there, I believe.
Okay.
This is Mike Ayakwa is here. But check what you have.
All right. He says the Edo Global poll is drawing nearer. There are unscrupulous elements in the states who are planning to cause havoc, disharmony, and rigging on the election day. Security operatives should sit tight and be ready to play their role.
All right. We have Muhyiddin Akinloye. It says political tyranny, political jamboree. No one is ready to speak the truth. No one ready to act contrary to the will of the present administration. God bless Nigerians.
Okay, Simeon, the conduct of the political parties and the supporters during campaigns is not pleasant. Party leaders and unions should contain their supporters on the type of languages, utterances they are using for peace to reign in the state.
Comrade Alaji Ngala says all political parties should sign a peace accord and then the election will be free and fair.
Eka, the campaign was interesting for both leading parties, APC and PDP. We hope to see free and fair election.
Yunusa Idris says the conduct of political parties in the Edo governorship election is condemnable. Cutting the cost of governance is the only way forward and solution to this do-or-die politics in Nigeria. We have to make the office of political holders, unattractive. I don't know what's saying that. Make political offices unattractive. That's the point I was trying to make.
Exactly. By paying them what you pay
well, that's the business of the revenue mobilization allocation
public service.
Yes, that's
so that before you want to go to the National Assembly, you'll be sure you are going to serve, and not to earn fat money. Delegate Solomon says, despite police claims to increase security measures to ensure peaceful voting, there seems to have been little or no police response to reports of threats and acts of violence by hired thugs and the soldiers against voters and election officials.
Ajibade tweets, for me, I think, that's Ajibade now, I think the youths of Edo State have some serious thinking to do. Do they want to be used and dumped after the election, or they want to fix their state? They've got only two choices, so they need to choose one.
Yeah, two good choices, I must say. Those who know Edo in and out. First, Tosakim Boyewa. The conspiracy theories, negative campaigning, propaganda, and personal attacks we are seeing in Edo State governorship election campaigns are disorientating.
Now we have this from Law Alpha C. It says the meeting between the Oba of Benin and the two major political parties, during which caution and peace were championed, seem to have been doused with a spate of accusations and counter-accusations by the parties, giving rise to tension and possible breakdown of rules of engagement. Now, what is the basis of this assertion? Law Alpha C.
Mutana Farouk, political campaigns ought to have been an avenue where a designed program of a candidate is sold to the electorate, but what we see today is an avenue where defamatory information and hate speech are displayed. When and who is going to stop this political miscarriage?
Adam Sheshi says, well done, NTA, in your efforts to enlighten the electorate on violence-free elections. It is now left for the people of Edo to decide on how they want the rest of the world to look at them. Edo needs to set a good example for other states to emulate.
Yeah, understanding Edo politics. Yeah. We're close to the election. All right, you know, what are you foreseeing or what are you envisaging on the election day?
Yeah, of course, I'm envisaging an election coming, and the people of Edo State will actually decide, you know, based on their political will. But my advice, especially to the federal government, is that this election, because Edo State is the only APC state in the South-South, so losing Edo State will actually tell something in the political journeys, you know, of the ruling party. So I'm suggesting that the federal government, or the ruling party rather, should not actually allow what happened in Kano State repeat itself, or even in Kogi State. How Nigerians have been condemning the scenarios, you know, of what actually happened. Of course, looking at the campaign strategy, you see Obaseki claiming that the opinion polls, you know, taking 80% of this particular polls are showing that he has the support of the Edolite. You get the point. So, but surprise can, surprise can beat even the strongest. That is it. Why? Because nobody ever thought that Hillary Clinton would not actually beat Donald Trump. And going by negative ad mailing campaign, I think not only Obaseki, you know, it is allowed, it is legal, but without slander labeling. And we have seen a situation whereby Yamo argued that Obaseki had actually betrayed our trust. Of course, this is an accommodating negative campaign. And secondly, also that he has abused, you know, his chances. These are all campaigns. But I believe that the Edo people will actually decide, you know, for the future of their own state in the next coming 4 years. And we believe that INEC will conduct this particular elections peacefully, with integrity. And it is now the challenge of the security operatives to make sure that they securitize the state and they make sure that the election becomes violence-free. Then on the final note, I will try to emphasize here is that politicians in Nigeria need to be getting what we call political advisors. Not you advising political advisors, but the advisors advising you in terms of political consultant. And that is why the argument is that the issue of justice, the issue of rule of law, these are all democratic values, democratic principles. So if Yamo had actually coined as part of his simple agenda, democratic values, I'm speaking as one who has defined and interpreted thousands of political concepts. And not only a PhD holder, I've also produced PhDs. So therefore, I think it is a misnomer for a politician to argue that leadership by example, when you have not even led, you have not led any example, you know, and telling people to vote for you on the basis of that, I think is a political miscalculation. So I'm advising them to actually...
It already explained the content of
Yeah. It depends on interpretational, agenda which you have. Because when you say justice or rule of law, you know, student of political science will tell you these are principles of democracy, not leadership by example. So he should have said consolidating democratic values or democratic principles.
Okay, your concern is about the label, not
the label, yeah. So it is a misnomer completely.
All right, thank you very much. Esther Uzoma, now in terms of conduct of your elections, very briefly, we know that sometimes whenever we have you, you can be very brief. So, Esther, very briefly, does INEC have its hands full for this election?
No, INEC is ready. INEC is ready, but my worry is that agents of political parties have been reduced to one each for the collection centers. I'm worried. Are they properly trained? Do they know what to look out for? You see, because they spend so much time and energy in campaign that nobody actually takes time to teach the agents who will be your eyes and ears on the field, the things to look out for.
All right. Esther Azoma, thank you very much for being with us on this conversation. Dr. Gali Ibrahim, we also like to appreciate you. And from our Benin Network Center, where we were joined by Pastor Osage Ezeyamo, candidate of the APC. Pastor Ezeyamo, I believe that you have stated your case. Do you have any closing thoughts that you can wrap up in 15 seconds or less? Let's break it sub 10 seconds, like Usain Bolt.
Well, thank you very much. Just to say that opinion polls are clearly in my favor. So anybody saying 80% is for one person is wrong. Anybody can make bogus claims, but I will assure you that we will win this election overwhelmingly by the grace of God. Our people are with us, and they are very pleased with the simple agenda. So I want to thank you for this opportunity, and we look forward to a very peaceful election.
Wish you well.
All right. Well, once again, to remind our viewers, Kieran, as we have said, that we'll expect the candidate of the PDP to be with us tomorrow, Thursday, or Friday. So that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you for tuning in. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, stay safe and be well. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kieran Umayo. Thank you for watching. See you again tomorrow.